Good morning. Thanks so much for joining to talk about recharging. We're recording this in August, and so it's a perfect time for us to be thinking about recharging and making sure that we're making the most of summer. The weather's hot. A lot of people are away. If you work with or for international companies, a lot of times our ex-US partners are better at taking breaks, so sometimes things slow down. So it's perfect time for us to make the most of the last few weeks of summer and really recharge. And it's on my mind for many reasons because, well, I just came back from a mini vacation and I have a 2-week vacation coming in a couple of weeks. And I just know for myself how important it is um, to pay attention to my energy level and pay attention to how engaged I am and how the little things sometimes, like how excited do I feel about what I have coming in my day? Or do I just have the feeling that I need a nap? That kind of a thing. If you pay attention to how you really feel, you will know what your energy level is and where you may need to recharge and how positive are you feeling or how drained are you feeling. I always think staying in touch with those things can tell us a lot about when you need to recharge. And I am a real proponent that everybody needs it. Even the most powerful batteries need a recharge source at times. And so it's not only do we need it, but we deserve it. And so I'm a big proponent of that. So, what's interesting when I was thinking about putting my thoughts together for this discussion today, I did a Google search on, how do you recharge your batteries kind of thing. Literally 484 million results. Now, probably two-thirds of them were about literally recharging a battery in your car or your phone or something like that. But a lot of them were the kind of recharge that we're talking about today, which is more the psychic recharge, if you will, and the recharging in particular for work. I mean, the issues that we talk about are career related. They blend over into life. Obviously, I'm all about the fulfilling career and the happy life. But there's a huge amount of interest and discussion out there about how do you recharge your batteries. So, in thinking about like our energy level, it occurs to me that maybe the way you recharge your phone is an analogy for how we do this. So I'm one of those, my phone is always attached to me. My husband gives me a hard time because it's always, if I'm asleep, it's next to the bed. If I am downstairs, my phone is downstairs. If I'm upstairs, my phone is upstairs. Half the time, he doesn't know where his phone is. We have very different approaches. But how do you deal with recharging your phone? Like, are you one of those that always wants to see it, 80% of higher? So you've always got it on its charger or plugged in somewhere? Or are you somebody that, plays phone roulette a little bit and lets it drain really far down before you recharge it? That could be an analogy for how we handle our own energy. I'm one of those, I always want to see it over 50%. And in my personal life, I do give myself mini resets or mini recharges. So maybe for me, that analogy works. Okay. This morning, I just saw a study about, I read about a study that was done in Denmark. It wasn't a huge study. It was about 50 people, but that's still a good qualitative sample rather. And it had to do with what is the value of recharging your batteries and giving yourself a break. And in particular, they were looking at the power of a vacation, like a real 2-week vacation, which is hard to do. But what they talked about was one of the benefits was it increases your cognitive flexibility. And the way they were measuring that was they did, I don't know all the ins and outs, to be honest with you, but what they did was they give you a stimulus like, say, a pair of scissors. And they asked, how many uses could you come up with for the pair of scissors? So, obviously it's to cut things. It might be to open a box. It might be as a weapon. Like, who knows how many things you can come up with, a paperweight. After a vacation, people were more cognitively flexible in coming up with more uses for something like scissors. So it was that kind of a test. And it just got me thinking the power of actually taking a vacation can make you more creative at work. If you can think of more ways to use scissors, think about how creative you could get with the big problems at work. So really, it's big benefits to recharging, and taking a vacation is a natural, right? But really where it needs to start is we need to give ourselves permission to recharge. You need to recognize the value of it. You need to actually give yourself permission for it. And for those of us that always need to be working a plan, I'm that way. A lot of my clients are that way. Putting your recharge break, whether it's big or small, and we'll talk about that, into your plan is really important, because then even if you are like I was last week, sitting by the lake, laying in a hammock, reading a novel, it was awesome. That was my plan. I knew I needed a break. I knew I needed to recharge my batteries. And so by laying in a hammock and reading a novel, I was working my plan. And that's the kind of game I will play with myself in order to give myself permission to do it. So figure out what works for you. Give yourself permission to take that break. And, again, those big and small ways really work. So, starting with some of the big ways, taking a vacation, obviously, if you can do it, the more you can disconnect, the better. I mean, that obviously is the biggest way. And some of us have different approaches to vacations. Sometimes you can really, just walk away from everything and delegate even your email, delegate anything that may be coming into someone else coming into you during that time, and really disconnect in that way. And sometimes it has to be more of a mini vacation, and you have to stay in touch on certain things, and what's best, but be honest with yourself, what you need and the level to which you can give that to yourself. So vacation is the big way, and you're going to come home thinking of all kinds of uses for scissors or the like. But sometimes it's a smaller way, and it might be taking time for yourself. It might be getting out for a walk, doing the thing that, that does recharge you, that really makes you more excited to come back to the office. So if it's for me, it's getting out in nature. It's oftentimes just going for a walk near water. Like there's this great lake near my house that we'll take our dog out for a walk a lot, and that will do it for me. But what I find is if I go out for a walk by myself and I'm listening to a podcast or on a call or something, it doesn't do it in the same way as if I really do just let myself be quiet, let myself be aware of the leaves rustling through the trees and, the sound of the water and kids playing and things like that. So really tap into what you need and what does it for you, because a sort of a pretend recharge won't do it for you. If you're we think we're better at multitasking, and multitasking and recharging oftentimes work against each other. So it's important to know what does it for you. Some of the best ways to recharge are to know when you need to disconnect. And that can be disconnect from work communications. That could be, just letting yourself stop checking emails all the time. What is going to happen if you don't check email for 3 hours and give yourself a break? I promise you, it'll be there when you get back. If something's truly an emergency, people will reach you on your phone. They'll actually call you rather than text or email. But I guarantee you, waiting 3 hours, most of the time, nothing's going to die. And in fact, we can create this self-fulfilling prophecy for ourselves. If we're constantly checking email and responding immediately, we train the people around us that that's how we behave. So we do this to ourselves, and we actually create more work, because if we're responding immediately, they're responding immediately. Whereas if we waited that 3-hour period or even a whole day, sometimes you can give yourself time to think about something, and you can give a more substantive, complete answer rather than bits and pieces back and forth. So think about what you're doing to create your own problem, if you will, and be committed to disconnect. If you are a leader at work, and so many of my clients are, disconnecting is actually a good thing. It's a good way to lead by example, because if you never do it, it's not okay for your people to do it. So think about, if you're doing it, you're giving them permission to do it. You're actually being a good leader by disconnecting from work communication. But it goes beyond that. When you're really giving yourself a break, you may need to disconnect from all electronic communication. You may need to give yourself a break from screens, period. And there's a bunch of studies that show that the light that's emitted from screens can actually prevent you from getting good rest if it's too soon before you go to sleep. And in general, it just keeps our mind spinning. So put the phone down. You will find it. Walk away from it. I need to learn a little bit of my own lesson and maybe take a page from my husband's book and actually leave the phone downstairs sometimes when we're upstairs. Of course, just saying that, I sensed a disturbance in the force, but that just shows, I think, how much I need it, how much I really am connected to my phone. Another way to disconnect that can help you recharge is to set some boundaries and disconnect from the things that drain your battery. And sometimes that's people. Sometimes that's even family members. Sometimes that may be some friends that are a little bit needier or can drain you at times, or you just need a break from. That's okay too. Like, understand what it is you need, set those boundaries, and make that commitment to yourself that you're disconnecting in all the ways that you need to disconnect. But then it's also important to reconnect with certain things that may be important to you in your life and that may actually recharge that battery and fuel you. And a lot of times that is the right people, the right family members, the right friends. I know how much that fuels me. I just spent a few days with friends up in the mountains, and I always walk away from that feeling refreshed and rejuvenated and supported in ways that sometimes I didn't even think I needed. So think about what you need to reconnect with. Another thing to reconnect with potentially is a hobby, something that you find fun. I don't know, it might be bowling, which I'm really bad at. It might be, I love jigsaw puzzles. Like, sitting down and doing a jigsaw puzzle is really fun for me. That I can multitask, I can listen to a podcast or something. But you get to see the results of your work. It, works your brain in a different way and is stimulating without being draining or taxing, at least for me. So, like, what is it for you? What's your version of a jigsaw puzzle or going for a walk by the lake? Give yourself a chance to reconnect with that too. And sometimes it's reconnecting in a way to give back, if that's something that gives you energy. So often we're looking for what we need, what can help us to be successful at work, in other aspects of our lives. For a lot of people, finding a way to give back is really fueling for you. So if you're one of those people, look for that. It doesn't have to be a big major commitment like joining the board of a nonprofit. It might be a cleanup day in your neighborhood, or, contributing to a food drive or something like that. Think about what it is that you need. How do you need to disconnect? How do you need to reconnect? And all of those things are going to help you to really recharge that battery. Even the mightiest batteries need to recharge. That's how batteries work. They drain and they need a source of recharge. And so you really need to pay attention to that before you go down to zero. And a lot of batteries can recharge themselves. You plug them in, it's really easy. They can recharge themselves. But if they completely drain, like thinking about your car battery, you need help to recharge that. So think about yourself in the same way and give yourself that recharge before you're completely drained. Um, all of this is not taking time away from work. This is going to refuel you for your work. When we get back for that fall push that we'll start talking about soon, my clients that are in job transition, for example, everybody knows July and August goes really slow. It can feel like crickets, but September, October, things start picking up again. So the recharge that we do during the summer can fuel us for that fall push and is an investment in that way. It's not something selfish or something that we're doing that takes away from work. So let me know how you recharge. I'd love to hear this kind of thing. My email, if you want to touch base with me on email, is randy@randyrobertscoaching.com. A great way to reach me is through my website, which is randyrobertscoaching.com. I have a bunch of resources there for you, all my blogs, my podcast episodes, career satisfaction assessment, or just generally how you can reach me through there if you want to let me know how you recharge, if you're interested in exploring working with me or the different services that I offer. So hopefully I've made my case for recharging, and you will go forth and do that in the way that's right for you. I wish you all the best for the rest of the summer and the coming fall. See you soon.